Well, I think that the river is in a good shape, in the sense that I think still is a very important part of the city. It's very lively when the weather is nice. So in a way it works well, because it has, you know, a lot of people go there during the weekends to kind of do picnics. There is a bike line that I think is very successful. People doing sports. So the existing condition, I would say, is relatively successful. People use it, and I think it's a very important part of the city right now. But of course, I think there are things that can be improved, you know? And then there are other things that maybe are not so good. So to me, most important one is probably that still, and this is a very difficult issue to work with, the infrastructure, the roads, the big highways are actually on the border of or kind of making a border to the river. So that makes a big kind of wall-like condition between the river and the city. And of course we have the tunnels that we can pass through, but still the whole impression is that the river is still not perfectly accessible from the city, because we have these big infrastructures on both sides. No? So actually in my hometown, in Madrid, we have also a river. It's a lot smaller than the Han River, but it's still a river, and we went through a massive redevelopment of the river banks maybe 10 years ago. It was really, really huge construction, because we had the same problem. We had a river that is nice, but then we had highways on both sides, and it was very difficult to actually enjoy the river. So what we did is basically sunken all the highways, make them underground, and then extend some sort of new park until the river. So now all the cars are actually going below ground. That was a very costly project. It took 5 years actually to build, but we went through. What we did is basically put underground the infrastructure so that it's more accessible. And this is, I think, one of the issues for the Han River right now, that is still not very accessible. And I think the crossing also. We can cross with the car is okay, no problem. We can always cross the river with car. But there's no such a thing as a pedestrian bridge, if you want, or there is not yet, I hardly see anybody crossing by walk the river. And I think if we had some sort of a pedestrian orientated bridge, or I don't know, I think there is still many potentials for the river crossing for people, or more boats, there is something like a taxi boat, but I think it's very little, not many people use. I think in terms of movement and from one side to another, I think there are many potential possibilities. So the hints that I got for the exhibition were not so much, it's not so much what I see now, but what I saw in the past. Or let's say I was more, our proposal actually started with some of the past images, things that the Han River used to have, but they don't have anymore. So I was very much, I liked it very much, the images of the Han River when not so many years ago, but maybe 10, 20 years ago, in the winter time, the Han River totally froze, and people could even walk inside in the water because it was really thick ice. That's something that we don't have anymore. Our winters are warmer, and then we don't have it. Or images like the beaches that the river used to have. Many years ago also, people from Seoul could, in the summertime, could go to the river and actually bath with a kind of a natural beach condition, and that one also we've lost. So those hints of the past images of the, let's say, the natural, a more natural hand river, were the kind of the hints for our proposal. What we want to say in the exhibition is basically that we would like to have to recover some of those images and bring them back to now. Last year we did an exhibition on the Han River, and then we were working on the idea of how can we freeze the Han River again, because the weather is not enough to freeze it, but then can we do something that actually freezes the water, and then we can kind of recall one of these past images of the river frozen. And then this year we are doing the same thing but with the beach. Can we actually bring back the beach back to Seoul Han River? And that's what we're trying to do with the exhibition. It is part of a larger issue, in my opinion. It's not only a Han River issue, but it's a larger issue, and it has to do with the biodiversity of cities. This is an issue that it's common to many cities in the world, and I think Seoul, like many other cities, are still, there are now efforts from the cities to try to recover the old biodiversity. The cities used to have more plants, more animals, more insects, and as we grow and build and we get more denser, we are losing all these natural kind of fauna and floras. So we realize, or cities are realizing, that this is also very important, and we have to find out ways to bring it back. But then biodiversity is not only animals and plants, but it's also the flows of nature. Is the air, is the temperature, is many things. So the river and its natural flows is part of the biodiversity of the city. So our exhibition is part of, I think, a bigger view of or a bigger strategy of bringing back biodiversity to the city. I guess that the expectation is what I said. I think it's successful right now. But I think if we manage to bring back more the previous conditions of the river, more natural borderlines, it's difficult to bring the ice again, because that is not really in our power. It's more, it has to do with the weather. But floras, faunas, the edge condition, more natural. Now the river is almost all the time we have some sort of dike or wall condition, so that we cannot really reach the water. It's a little bit artificial. No? So my expectation is that maybe in the future we can see more and more naturalization of the river, rather than building more things, making it more artificial, but otherwise, making it more natural.